I'm Paul DeJoria, and you're watching Behind the Brand.
Hi, I'm Brian Elliott. Welcome to another edition of Behind the Brand. Today I'm here with entrepreneur Paul DeJoria. John, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
John, I usually ask my guests, how'd you get this job?
Well, I'll tell you, it wasn't there, I needed it. And by the way, I think your show for this segment should be called Behind the Brands, because we'll probably test at least 4 or 5 brands while we're talking here. When I started John Paul Mitchell Systems, or wanted to start it back in 1980, we had a backer for $500,000. That's what we needed. He pulled out. Why? Inflation was 12.5%, unemployment 10.5%, interest rates 17% prime interest, and we waited in line for gasoline. So at the last moment, the guy pulled out. We had no money. I quit everything I was doing, had a few $100 in my pocket, and left my existing way of life. I was going to get in a hotel for the first month there, and it turned out no money. So I lived in my car for the first couple of weeks, and we started the company with $700, and the American dream still works.
Yeah, but let's back up a little bit before that. So what gave you the right, or what gave you the passion or the interest to move forward and start this new business? Like, were you qualified, or was it just an idea?
In the past, I'd worked for several companies in the professional beauty industry, everything from sales to marketing to education. So I knew the industry pretty good.
Yeah. Who are some of your influencers?
I think the only inspiration I had at the time was going back to when I sold encyclopedias door to door in my early 20s. There's a lot of rejection and it's tough. Well, that was the same way when we started our company with little to no money whatsoever. It was very difficult. A lot of doors were slamming in our face, but we knew we had the best hair care product. And by gosh, if hairdressers used it, they'd love it and tell their customers about it.
There's so many questions I want to ask, and I sort of want to unpack that a little bit. You know, this show, a lot of people who watch it they're entrepreneurs. Maybe let's first start by asking you, do you think entrepreneurs are born or are they made? Is this something that we can learn?
I would say some entrepreneurs are probably born, because you see little kids peddling lemonade and everything else, and many, though, I would think are made. You learn how to do it. Maybe you don't have that extra excitement from within, but when you learn how to do it, now it comes out because of your confidence.
And so in your case, you feel like it was in your DNA? I mean, it feels like you were a salesman from the get-go.
I believe it was in my DNA, because I know at a very young age I was selling Christmas cards, and at 7 years old, flower pots that I made at the Variety Boys Club.
So you saw this, beauty industry as an opportunity. You had experience, and you decided to go for it. Where did it go from there?
Well, to start with the company, it was exciting. Started with John Paul Mitchell Systems, and it was a bear. It took us 2 years to pay our bills on time. That's when we knew we made it. We paid them on time, didn't pay them off. And then we built Paul Mitchell only in the professional beauty industry. If you see it in a drugstore or supermarket, it's black gray market, or it's counterfeit. We don't put it there. We only sell through salons because we feel they could give the best advice. Not only what product to use for your type of hair, but for your type of hairstyle, to maintain it in between visits. 9 years later came Patrón, hanging out with a pal of mine, and we were sipping tequila and thought there must be something better than this. And he went down to Mexico, brought us back this bottle and said, hey, it's a simple bottle, it's smoother than anything we've ever had. And I met a guy named Francisco, and he can make it even smoother. Want to go to the tequila business? Things were going good for Paul Mitchell. So I said, let's try it. Ordered 1,000 cases, 12,000 bottles. Very expensive, because what we used was so expensive to make the way it was made, and recycled bottles. But I said, hey, 1,000 cases, 12,000 bottles, give it a shot. If it didn't work, back in 1989, we had to sell it for $37 a bottle back in 1989, okay? Wow. Most expensive tequila ever, because it cost so much to make this stuff. I fear if it didn't sell, everyone I knew for 10 years, for I don't care what the occasion might be, they would receive a great bottle of tequila, whether it's for a little kids thing where the adults drink it or they drink it themselves. And that's how the company took off. So today we have Paul Mitchell, of course, is a major brand. We have Patrón as a major brand. Paul Mitchell's in about 96 countries throughout the world. Patrón in 132 countries throughout the world. Both brands have grown every single year. 2 new brands that I'm starting now or have started within the last 12 months are ROK, R-O-K Mobile, and Abio, A-U-B-I-O.
Let's unpack this journey a little bit. So, Paul Mitchell was doing well as a brand, but How well was it doing, and how did that enable you to start these other businesses?
Paul Mitchell started with nothing. 2 years to pay our bill on time, and then we got $2,000 extra left over.
Was it just you running the business?
It was myself and my partner. He wasn't a businessman, I wasn't a hairdresser, but he was one of the greatest hairdressers ever. He would do fabulous shows, have an incredible following. I took care of all the business. Perfect relationship. But in the beginning, when we went out to sell it, we would do a show together, and he'd go knocking on doors with a salesman, and I would go knocking on doors with a salesman to build it. The American dream worked. And then later on, by 1989, I accumulated some money, made some investments, and made a little bit of money, and enough to be able to start Patrón.
Yeah, give us an idea of the size of that empire, just for some context. It's not about bragging or anything else. It's about context, because I think a lot of people watch this show maybe they get stuck. They think, well, everything's got to be perfect. I've got to have the right amount of money, whatever that is. I've got to have the right number of team people. You know what I mean? So give us some context.
You betcha. Started Paul Mitchell with 2 people. 6 months before I could hire a secretary, who also was the secretary, the bookkeeper, the receptionist, everything, right? It's a cinch by the inch. You got to move slow. 2 things I have for all entrepreneurs. 1, be prepared for a lot of rejection. If you're prepared for it, when it happens, it's not going to shock you and disappoint you and send you down a negative trail. Be prepared for it. Be as enthusiastic on door number 50 as you were on door number 59 or 49 if they were all slammed in your face. Second thing is, make sure your service or your product is the best it could be, so you're not in the selling business. Selling business means I sell you something and talk to you about it. I want to be in the reorder business. What I'd like you to try is so good, you'll want to reorder it or want to tell a friend about it if it's a one-time product. Very, very good clues. And then as things graduated, many things are coming my way.
This show is really about the journey, right? Like I said, a lot of people watch the show, they have their own businesses. Do you think it's easier to start something new now that you have all these resources and you have this experience, or was it easier to do back then because you had a shorter distance to fall if you failed? You know what I mean? Like, do you ever find yourself getting stuck, and if so, is it easier now, or was it easier then?
It's a very good question. Much easier now. I'll give you many reasons. Now you have the internet. If I wanted business cards, I had to pay $4 to get something typeset at a type place, a printer. They would make a copy of it for 4 cents on the Xerox machine they had. I would make other copies. Now I had stationery. Okay, I mean, that's how we did it. To have an office, I had no money. I bought an answering machine for less than $50. I got a P.O. box, okay? Today, with everything the way it is, it's much easier. They say, but the economy, JP, how about the economy? I say, Boulder Dash. Look at today's economy. Do we have 10.5% unemployment? No. Probably do, but no one wants to talk about it. Is inflation 12.5%? No. Are interest rates 17%? No. I think it's easier now. We had more competition then than one would have today. So it's all about making it happen because you believe in it. Do we have a lot of things turning us down? Every day. We should have gone bankrupt every day for 2 years, but we didn't. We hung in there and it happened.
Well, you had a quality product. People loved it, and you served the tribe, right? It was
served them. Exactly. We were of service to our people, to our customers.
What are maybe some of the biggest lessons learned? And then I want to ask you about a couple of your biggest mistakes. And let's just isolate Paul Mitchell first.
Sure. I would say some of the big lessons learned along the way are, there's a lot of people along the way that you think you trust. All of a sudden they disappoint you. Be very careful of the people you pick along the way.
You're talking about like senior level people or?
Business people, yeah, well, I'm saying more like, business associates. Be very careful about people, because sometimes people aren't what they are.
And how can you be careful about that?
Well, the first thing that I learned, was a big lesson for me along the way to disappointment, was I hired somebody once, or a couple times, on their resume. Nice people, great resume. Where what I should have done was hired them from what I felt from their heart, not just what's written. Once you feel them from their heart, you got a pretty good indication. Are they really coming across the right way they should be coming across, meaning that from their heart, or they're just putting out words so you can hire them?
Yeah, that's excellent advice. What else did you learn?
That you could do it if you have nothing. We had an answering machine as an office and a friend's telephone. There's ways to do it. You could find a way. and don't give up. If you say, well, my field is saturated, well, my field was saturated in the beauty industry back in 1980. We changed that with something better. Tequila, no one ever thought a tequila over $5 or $10 would ever sell. We wanted people to treat themselves to something that was so special they'd want more. That's how Patrón succeeded. The quality of the product is second to none. You felt good, the results of the product, and it was the best, and you treated yourself. It still is, by the way. You know, Patrón today will do about over 30 million bottles, and all of them are still in recycled glass, and we make it the same way today that we made it 5, 10, 15, 20 plus years ago.
You have this idea for Paul Mitchell or for Patrón, and you think it's brilliant, and maybe it's perfect timing, but it's just not working. How long do you give that great idea, right, until you cut bait or pivot or...
Well, there's a lot of things I've started, especially in the water business, that never made it. But I loved it so much that I moved to another company, another entity to try and build that up. It's just that when you see it's not going right is when you walk away. But I did not do that with Paul Mitchell. Thank God I did not do it with Paul Mitchell. I just kept on trying and trying and trying.
So 2 years you stuck it out through...
Oh yeah, this one was going to make it. And when we were able to pay our bills on time, even though it took 2 years, we didn't pay them off just on time, I knew we made it.
So what are some of those signs that we should watch out for to know that, you know, because some of us hang in there too long and we really ought to cut bait, or maybe we quit too soon, right? So like, what are some of those signals that we should watch out for?
Each month's sales is not a good signal, because sometimes you'll have a good month, sometimes you'll have an off month. But if you go several months, and instead of growing a little bit every single month, you start going down every single month, you may be doing something wrong, you may want to change. If it doesn't change it to go up, maybe it's not the right thing for you.
Yeah, so what else should we be measuring as, you know, they call them KPIs, right, or key performance indicators? Like, what else is a measure of success? It's, besides, you know, the return on the investment.
Yeah. Well, a success to me means that you had a good end result. Whether you work for somebody or have your own product out there, the end result is a great end result. That's success. A great janitor would be the best one. But things along the way you've got to see is your heart still into it? Is your enthusiasm into it? It's like when we started Paul Mitchell. Knock on 10 salons, they may not be interested. Nice people, but they have other products. They have a name to them. You keep on going with just as much enthusiasm as you had on door number one. And that's very important. Once you start losing that, then you're going to really see yourself drift out.
Yeah, I buy into the passion thing, but how do you feel about, you know, people who are passionate? You know, starving artists come to mind. You know, people who love and are passionate about art, but they suck at it. You know, what should we talk to these people about? What should we be telling these people? What kind of advice can we give to people who are just hanging on too long?
If you're hanging on too long to something and you realize you're not good at it, then it's time to make that business into a hobby. Okay, I'm going to still try and do this. I'm going to still try and be a singer and artist. But to make some money, I have to go in a different direction. Just isn't cutting it for me.
Yeah. Let's talk more about failure. You know, I think the F word gets a lot of people stuck in this term called analysis paralysis that we all love to hate. And there's a big stigma that goes along with failure. You know, you fail once and the peanut gallery thinks, well, maybe he's going to fail again or she can't do it. Sometimes we are our own worst critic. What are some of what you would consider your greatest failures? And we talk about that with hindsight and lessons learned. Like,
get them all the time.
Yeah.
Knocking on encyclopedias door to door. Door to door to door. No appointments. I'm knocking on a book, okay? The book's not in there yet. It's a door, okay? And I got to get through. And people keep on closing that door in your face. I'm not interested. Some polite, some not so polite. It's that you've got to keep going if you believe what you have is that good. You got to believe it. That eventually, if I could tell my story now, somebody you'll talk to along the way, and they'll say, this is great, but no, I don't want it. What lesson did you learn? How can I come across smoother? And I did that with selling encyclopedias as an example. I would knock on 50 doors, maybe get one. Sometimes 100 doors, make a presentation. I didn't make it. 3 presentations, I didn't get it. 4 or 5 presentations. Finally, I made a sale. Then I got better and better. Pretty soon, I can knock on 25 doors. More than likely, if they were potential customers, get into 2 or 3 of them, give 3 presentations, and 2 of them I would close. You get better. So it's not failure. It's a learning experience and what you have to sharpen up a little bit if you stay enthusiastic.
okay, so it's all about enthusiasm. It's all about, attitude, altitude kind of thing.
It's attitude, because if your attitude sucks, you're going to suck too.
How important is story in your branding? You've built this brand empire, you know, and it's not unlike what Richard Branson has done and other greats who have several different kinds of businesses. Sure. How important is story in that?
Well, the story behind each product is very important because it's why it's unique and different. So if somebody has something to present, they should present how it came to be. What are the features and the benefits of those features to somebody? What is that? That's part of the story that you want to get across so people understand. Instead of like, God, this is the best lip gloss you could ever imagine. This is definitely the best for any type of cold sore you could ever imagine. You know, that's my opinion, right? You tell them what it is. This is made primarily out of plants. These plants happen to work immediately by sending a signal back to wherever that virus came from that this shouldn't be here. You know, it actually does something. The feature of this is it's a little tube, which means no one sees it. Stick it in your pocket. By having it in your pocket, it benefits you in your car. When you feel the tingle coming on, you can get it immediately and put it on.
Talk to us about new media. How are you using new media? You know, whether it's Snapchat or are you social? Are you on these social platforms? How do you feel about this new media craze that's going on?
Personally, I don't even have email. Okay, but my companies are big time into social media because it's great. I know Rock Mobile kind of launched through social media to start with because people have to go to rokmobile.com. Abio, now that we're getting distributors out there, but the first thing we did was have a website so people see what it is, know about it, and I guess go on Amazon or wherever they want to go to buy it. Soon they could buy it at Target and so forth, or at Top Salon, which would have it also. But social media is very important because people could see it on the internet. They watch that more than the television set, and it gets your message across. Well, at Paul Mitchell, we've learned that in a big way. Yeah. We're heavy duty, and so is Patrón into the internet.
It was more interesting to me that you're off the grid. So what's up with that choice?
I would be inundated if I had email, totally inundated, so I choose not to. I choose to call you on the phone, write you a letter, usually by hand, or you send me a letter, I'll usually put it on there. I'd be inundated if I was on the internet, so I don't do internet at all. Well,
so what is it, how do you feel about that? I mean, because that's really, really old school, but it's still super important. Like, you must be doing it because it makes you feel a certain way.
By not having internet, and by having less time on the computer, no time on the computer, by calling people, it lets me have that personal touch with people still, and it lets me pay attention to the vital few and ignore the trivia many.
See, that's a really important nugget, I think, right there. I mean, everything and nothing has changed, right, about relationships. Right. We've got social media, we've got technology, but really what you said, I think, should be underscored. That seems like one of the true keys to your success is this personal relationship, this, you know, taking the time to call someone and talk to them or be with them face to face. Or
all about relationships.
Yeah.
All businesses are.
So where are you headed from here? What's next?
Oh my gosh, I think right now as well, I've got my hands full now. We've got a couple of billion-dollar brands, and needless to say, Rock is going to be a billion-dollar brand before the end of the year, and Abio has that same potential.
Are you doing like cross promotions or like collaborations with other, you know, call it a mashup or whatever you want to do? Are you doing collaborations with other companies?
We're doing collaborations with some charities where we give a piece to that charity to help them make some money, or some organizations. That I love to do because they get a little piece for being involved, and as we go it works out pretty good. Is the goal to go from a $5 million net worth like I have today to, billion, to a 10 or $20 billion net worth? No.
By the way, difference between million and billion is quite a bit, yeah? I heard it.
I'm sorry, what did I say?
You said 5 million.
I'm sorry, no, the difference, no, 5 million is fine.
5 billion?
Yeah, but the difference, do I want to go? Well, that's, if you look at Bloomberg, it may be more, it may be less, who knows, maybe a lot more. But let's say to go from whatever figure, 5, whatever it is, okay, to go from several billion dollars to, 10, 15, and 20, whatever that is, none of that is the goal. The goal is, if I could come out with something really good that benefits mankind, and it becomes a billion-dollar business, it meant that I benefited them so much that the business is that big. Then I have more things I could give away, not give away, but invest in people to make people's lives better, create jobs, help people have homes for the first time, a variety of things that I do with the money, like mobile ocean fishes, saving the waterways of the world through the Waterkeeper Alliance, and I could go on and on.
Yeah, so I guess that's my final question is, how has your vision changed, from when you were bootstrapping and hustling, in the Paul Mitchell days to now? I mean, it seems like you're on this path to do good. But has it always been that way, or did you chase the money at one time, or talk to about that?
In the beginning, the motivation was chase the money to eat. Break even if we could at the end of the month. We didn't for 2 years. Okay, we need money to exist. We always had a giving heart. Even though I may not have had money, I showed up at Griffith Park, let's say at Thanksgiving and Christmas, and helped feed the homeless. Always did something. But once you're able to have enough for you, your family, and a few generations to come, then you have enough to also help change the world while you're here for many people all over the world. And it feels really good. And my kids do the same thing. They also get involved in this. So it makes me very happy.
Let's look right in this lens and just give some parting words of advice to people who are in startup mode, or maybe, they're in Paul Mitchell start mode, they're in hustle mode.
Successful people do all the things unsuccessful people don't want to do. That's a big difference between successful people and unsuccessful people. Now, is it just monetary? No. If you're a janitor, sweep those floors so good, move everything as if your boss was watching every single minute. It's interesting. I did that when I was in high school because I loved the job I had and I wanted the money because I needed it to operate my car that I built out of junk in auto shop. I got a 25-cent an hour raise because they noticed how well I cleaned. I was a very successful janitor. Successful people do the things the unsuccessful people don't want to do. On and on, time and time again. Be prepared for a lot of rejection and don't give up. Believe in what you have, but make sure it is the best service or best product. It's a matter of just telling enough people and creating enough relationships. Peace, love, and happiness.